Glad to follow a roller derby girl. My name is Doug Erickson, and I've been asked to introduce Lydia Snider. And I first met Lydia about 5 or 6 years ago on the cliffs of Scotts Creek up north. It was a huge winter day. It was pre-drought conditions. This means the water was cold, the wind was cold, and less than 10% of the people who normally surf or get in the water during the summer would dare go out. And the waves were huge. This was triple overhead conditions. For those of you who don't know surf, that's 15 to 25 feet. The winds were cranking perfect. It was 20 knot from the northwest. And the usual suspects were on the cliff, on the bluff, checking it out, deciding what the challenge was going to be. That included people like Josh Neff, also known as Corn-Fed, because he's as big as a bull. And there was Peter Scheibel, who the legendary kite and sail designer who put extreme kiting on the map, on the Santa Cruz map. There was Sean Richmond, one of the top kiters in the world, who came to Santa Cruz from Hawaii to kite and to go to UCSC. And the usual suspects, I think there was Malibu and JD and Jan, I think I saw her here, and me with my knees shaking and my voice higher than normal, saying, "Come on, guys, let's go. This is really good." And it was crazy. And then there was this one petite woman with electric blue eyes and a fire in her soul, and that was Lydia. And she got out there and she rode those waves and those conditions that really only the top people in the world can actually challenge and live to tell the story. And she's been successful at kiting, probably many other sports. She has been successful as a social strategy media person. She's a co-founder with a co-organizer with the Santa Cruz New Tech Meetup. She's a friend of Santa Cruz. Please welcome my friend, Lydia Snider.
Thank you, Doug. I'm going to try to live up to that introduction. Actually, I'm kind of an unusual person that to be here is kind of actually an amazing moment for me. It's a culmination of a lot of years of hard work. I actually grew up in the center of Washington, D.C., 3.5 miles from the White House. I didn't spend any time on boards or bikes or any of that sort of thing when I was growing up. When we hit middle school, we started taking social dance classes. That's where you have to go and learn how to waltz and all that sort of thing and start learning how to do that stuff because we were being prepared for the world of Washington, D.C., state dinners and that sort of thing. By high school, we started to learn receiving lines. And yeah, I can say, pointless banter to 20 people in a row. But then at one point, I decided I wanted to go outside and play, and I moved to California. And I started a career as a special education teacher. So I spent my entire adult life as a special educator. I spent my entire life in institutions, school, in the government world. And that's what I knew. That's all I knew. And to stand up here right now as a kite surfer and entrepreneur, never in my lifetime would have ever imagined it, especially not when I was fighting my way in my stockings and skirts and heels on this metro to get to work in D.C. A really different kind of game there. And I moved to Santa Cruz, and right after I got to town, I started heading north on the coast because I wanted to see my neighborhood. And that spot where you come up right before it turns right to Waddell, that curve, it happened to be a really good kiting day. And there was this carnival of the brightly colored kites out on the water. And again, DC, you learn this stuff. The Wordsworth poem of "My Heart Leapt Up," I finally understood that. I literally felt my heart leap up into my throat. I'm like, this is what I need to do. And I went careening across Highway 1, horns blaring around me, ripping into the parking lot. And I went running up to someone. I'm like, what is this sport? And he told me what it was. And I said, thank you. And I ran off. I don't know. It actually took me a little while to get to it because I had been scuba diving before, and I just recently had an accident in a wave where I got picked up by a rogue wave. And only because in those split seconds I was able to make the right decisions did I not get slammed into a cliff, and I managed to sort myself out of it. If anyone here has done an extreme sport, you know those moments. And you know that once you've lived through that moment, you know that you can do anything. You kind of talked about it. It's that moment where what I do in the next few seconds determines if I live or die or end up paralyzed or worse. And once you know you can do that, you can do anything. But I still was really, really afraid of waves. I would stand on West Cliff and my heart, my chest would close up when the waves would crash. And I had to find my way through it because I wanted that kite surfing. And the desire to learn to kite surf was bigger and stronger than the waves, than my fear of the waves. And I'm still afraid. And when Doug was describing that story, my palms were sweating. And I think it's important, you got to respect Mother Nature because you are a tiny breakable thing out there. And the only way through the fear, the only way around the fear was really through the, damn, I ruined my line. The only way around the fear was really through it. And I just started to go out there and do it and, just breathe through it, because really that is the only difference between fear and excitement is breathing. If you're on the entrepreneurial journey, if you're on your moment in your whatever sport you do, and you find yourself afraid, try breathing. I'm serious, it really works. There's times out there that I'm out on the water and I'm absolutely terrified, and I'm thinking, when's the last time I breathed? Oh, it's been a little bit. And as soon as I start to breathe, it suddenly becomes fun and exciting again. So there's a lot that I have learned in the last few years of making this transition, of reinventing myself from special educator, grew up in Washington, D.C., to what it is I do now. My mother does not understand it yet. I don't know which scares her more, the entrepreneurship or the kite surfing. She's actually getting kind of used to the kite surfing now. The entrepreneurship, she's still trying to grasp her head around, and my parents do not understand at all what I do. And and there's a million things I could share, and I actually, on my blog, I wrote all the rest of the things that I didn't pick to share tonight, because with 10 minutes I get one thing. So I picked the cornerstone, the one thing that is really the nugget that has served me in both the kite surfing and the entrepreneurship, and this is the thing that brought both of them together, because boy, learning to kite surf, it is not an easy process. It's not something you just go out and do. You get your butt kicked a lot. And same with entrepreneurship. I mean, there's a lot of people in this room who've been with me on my journey of self-reinvention in the last few years, and they've seen me through thick and thin. I have cried on a lot of shoulders in this room. And the thing that I realized is it's learning to have the comfort in the uncertainty. As soon as I was finally able to get that both on the water and to get it on land in the entrepreneurship, that's when everything started to come together. Because if you're in the fear and you're in the death grip, you don't have access to, when I was nodding, you have access to a certain other part of your brain when you are in that flow, when you just dare to let go. Those are forces far more powerful than you. If you're caught on the inside, you cannot fight it. You have to roll with it and wait for it to pass. And it's the same with the process of entrepreneurship. I kept trying so hard to force how I thought this had to be. And when I finally just settled into just daring to be comfortable in the uncertainty, that's when things started to come together. That's when the opportunities started to arise. That's when I was able to really make the connections I needed. And I knew I was really on to something when I reconnected with an old boyfriend from back east, because reconnecting with old boyfriends is always a great idea, That worked out so well before, let's try that again. And he's one who's really entrenched in a lot of the systems that I see are shifting. I don't care what your belief system is. I think things are changing. Our political and cultural and economic systems are changing, and it is an incredibly uncertain time. And he's his whole existence very much depends on those. And he ended up really yelling at me and berating me for my life, how I'm choosing to live my life, telling me I'm completely irresponsible, that I'm completely selfish, and who the hell did I think I was? And woo! and you say, as athletes, we know if you are not wiping out, you are not pushing it. In entrepreneurship, if you are not pissing people off, you are not pushing hard enough. So as he's sitting there, I'm like, yeah, I am doing something right. But it was really interesting because I could see he was in the fear. It's uncertain, and he doesn't know how to handle that. But I have lived on the edge financially, emotionally, intellectually, so on that edge for the last few years that it's actually a more comfortable place for me now, which opens up much greater opportunity. And as I sat there and listened to him, I was just sitting there, and yeah, that would piss me off too. If my life was stuck in this, and you were sitting there ready to ride the next wave, and I knew that I was probably going to get pounded by it, yeah, I could see why he was pissed. So I just have embraced more and more the be comfortable in the uncertainty, and then that's when things come together. And if you really are stuck in it in the moment, because there's dark times, it's the wave, it's the ups and downs. And if you find yourself in that moment where you can't find the comfort in the uncertainty, stop and check, are you breathing? That is it's the most practical tool, and it really works. So thank you.